Okay, welcome to my car. I just had to wait out here for 20 minutes because as soon as I got out here to wait in my car, my neighbors decided to come out and do a whole family photo shoot, like right in front of me. And I'm just sitting here in my car, like looking at my phone. So awkward, but it's fine. They're gone now, so we can do this video. And the reason I'm doing this video in my car is because my whole entire family is home for the holidays, so I came out here to do my video. So sorry if the angle isn't that good. It is what it is today. Okay, so today's video is going to be the end of year book tag, and I got all these questions from Destiny's video, so I'll link it down below. And we're just gonna get right into it, answer some questions. I brought some of my books in the car with me, so yeah, let's get started. Okay, so the first question is the most disappointing read of the year. And this one just has to go to Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. Okay, so Then She Was Gone is like a really popular book, and that's why I came across it, and I listened to it as an audiobook. I remember everyone was talking about this book, and people either like loved it or hated it, but at the time I only saw people that liked it. So I thought I'd like it. And so I listened to it, and it was so spooky, scary, and sad that I just didn't like it. I gave it 2 stars, and it's like one of the lowest books I've rated this year. And I was so disappointed. I thought it was going to be great. I mean, I heard so many good things. Then once I started looking at reviews and stuff, I realized, no, a lot of people don't like this book too. So I don't know. But at the time, it was a popular one that I thought I was going to like, so it was disappointing for me. Okay, next we have the underdog book of the year, and I have to give it to Assistant to the Villain. I honestly haven't heard like a bunch about this book, but when it came out, I saw a lot about it, and it has like the red sprayed edges, which I feel like everyone was like obsessed over, and like people were buying it because of that. But I also saw one quote of it on TikTok, and then was like, okay, I bought it, and then I like read it pretty quick after I bought it. I think I read it in October. And I was so pleasantly surprised. I think more people should be talking about this book, and I think more people should read this book. So if you haven't read it, this is your sign to read it. I was laughing. I love like the dry humor, and it's like been compared to like The Office humor. So of course, like that's just my cup of tea. Like I'm gonna love it, and I really did like it, and I love the characters. And it's like Grumpy Sunshine, and there's romance, and there's like a little bit of a mystery involved. And I loved it the whole time. I was like thoroughly enjoyed. So this is definitely the underdog book. More people should definitely read this. A book that was overhyped. I might be on the unpopular side of this, but I think it has to be Daisy Jones and the Six. This took me so long to read, and I think if I had listened to it as an audiobook, I would have liked it, but it's just the writing style. I could not get into it, and I could not connect to the characters, and I didn't know what was happening. I'm also terrible at characters' names. It takes me forever to learn people, and I kept getting confused by everyone in this book because you're introduced to so many characters, and their names are all through it because it's like interview style. It's just confusing for me, and I just didn't connect to them, and I didn't like them. I will say I liked the ending of this book a lot. Like towards the end, I was actually understanding, and I liked it at the end, but I still think like throughout the whole beginning was just very boring. And it's very hyped up, and everyone talks about how this is like one of their favorite Daisy Jones. Nope. Everyone talks about how this is like one of their favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid books and all this stuff, and it was becoming a show and all this stuff, so I just think it was overhyped. But if you liked it, that's great. I just unfortunately didn't like it that much. Fave book couples. Okay, I have a few. So we obviously have Liz and Wes from Better Than the Movies, Harriet and Wynn from Happy Place. I want to say this couple's name, but I don't know if it's considered a spoiler, so I'm just going to say the couple from Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. You'll know if you know. And then Iris and Roman from Divine Rivals. Those are all my favorite book couples of the year. Okay, and then the favorite characters of the year are pretty similar to the book couples, but we have a few different ones. So we have Violet from Fourth Wing, the Imprint series, and we have Avery from the Inheritance Games series. I really love Avery. I don't know if that's unpopular because I don't hear many people talk about her, but when I was the whole time I was reading the Inheritance Games series, I loved Avery so much. So she's definitely one of my favorites of the year. And then we have, Evie from Assistant to the Villain. I loved her. She was so funny, she was so nice, sunshiny, but she had like these darker thoughts, or like she would be like, oh, I would not hesitate to kill that man for you. Kind of like that. And I was like, okay, yep, I love her. Like she's so funny and real. Even though I wouldn't kill someone, but you know what I mean. Like she had a little bit of anger in her, and I like to read about that. Number 6, a book that surprised you. I have to give it to the Atlas 6. I have never read a dark academia book until the Atlas 6, so I really had no idea how I was going to like it or if I was even going to like it, and it pleasantly surprised me. I actually give this book 5 stars. And I'm obsessed with it. I want to read the second one. I still haven't, but I need to. It was really good. There is no romance. So unfortunately I was like misled because I thought there's romance in this, but there's not. But I still really liked the book and I was still pleasantly surprised. And like I now know that I like dark academia, so I'm going to read more of it in the next year. But yeah, this one definitely surprised me. I've heard so many mixed opinions and reviews, so I'm glad I gave it a shot. New fave author you discovered in 2023. Okay, so I kind of have 2 for this one. One is Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I read the whole Inheritance Games series and the Hawthorne Legacy, something like that. And then I also read the Natural series by her. So that's like 8 books. She has to be one of my top authors. I really love her books and I love her YA series, and I think you should definitely read them if you haven't. The Inheritance Games is one of my favorite like trilogies ever, and then the Natural series is really good too if you like Criminal Minds. It's like a YA version of that. And they're just really good, and I eat her books up so quick, and I love them all. So my other fave author of the year has to be Alice Feeney. I really got into like the mystery genre this year, and especially with audiobooks, so I've listened to a few of hers, and I really like it, and I really like her writing, and her plot twists are really good. I unfortunately guessed the one in his and hers, but Rock, Paper, Scissors did get me, and that's one of my new favorite books that I've read recently, so she is definitely a great author. So for the happiest book read this year, I have to give it to Better Than the Movies. It made me so happy. Like but really, it made me so happy while reading this book. I was obsessed with this book. I still am. And I remember when I was reading this book, I was so excited to like go home and read this book. And it just made me so happy while reading it. And I love Liz and Wes and just everything about this book. So this is definitely the happiest read this year. The most frustrating book I read this year has to be Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I almost DNF'd this book. I was like this close to DNFing it, and then I just like pushed through. It's just really like the length of it was so long and frustrating, and I almost DNF'd it. Like it did not need to be that long. And I really didn't even like the storyline. The only thing that kept me reading was like the whole sister plot line. I wanted to know how that ended up. Like that was interesting, but everything else, I was bored. And I like a slow burn, so maybe that's why. It was definitely so frustrating, just like the length of it and just the plot. So I never continued the series. Unfortunately, that was really frustrating. So for the best adaptation of the year, I have a tie. And this one might be shocking because I'm going to mention it again. But the first one is actually Daisy Jones and the Six, which I know I just said that I did not really like this book. But the TV show is so good. I love the TV show. It was not boring at all. I liked the characters. Like I guess I could connect to them more. I just liked the TV show way better. And the music is so good. I just liked it. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I liked the show. And I actually liked the ending in the show better than the ending in the book. So, and it stayed pretty true to the book besides that. I think about the TV show often, so I feel like that it has to be like one of the best ones this year. And then the other one is The Summer I Turned Pretty. I love that TV show too. It is such like great summer vibes. Every time I think of that show, I just feel like transported back to like the summer when I watched it, like each season. It's just so good. And they stick to the book pretty well, but they like adapt it in a way to like fit the modern culture and like world and like the songs that are popular and everything right now. Honestly, like I've seen people say if the songs were in The Summer I Turned Pretty, it would be like so cringy and weird. But like the songs make it so much better, and it's true. And I really love Belly and Conrad. They're so cute and I love it. So the longest book I read this year, which also took me a very long time to read, was Iron Flame. I brought her just so you could see just how thick she is. So yeah, this is definitely the longest one I read. It was 623 pages. This is the longest book I've ever read, honestly. But hopefully next year that changes. That's one of my goals. So that's the longest one. And then the shortest one I read this year was actually one that I read recently, which is Baggage Claim. And it is only 271 pages. So some of my favorite covers of the year, I'm just going to put pictures because I don't have all of them with me. But they are definitely the Inheritance Games covers. I love those covers, and especially like after you read the book and you look at the covers, you can kind of like understand why certain objects and things are on the covers, and I just think they're so pretty. Oh, and then I really love Malibu Rising. That's one of my favorite covers this year. I remember I bought it specifically because of the cover. I thought it was so cute, and after I read that book, I fell in love with the cover even more, and I just think it's so pretty and it screams summer and it's like perfect for the book. And then the last one that I really love is Happy Place. I always love Emily Henry's covers. They're beautiful and they're cute. They're perfect, and I really love how Happy Place is pink, so it gets bonus points. A book you haven't stopped thinking about. I have a few. I know I cannot pick one sometimes. So definitely Better Than the Movies, If You Had Been With Me. I think about that one so much, like it's actually probably not good. The amount of times I think about that book and like want to sob over it. But it's fine. And then Iron Flame and Fourth Wing, I think about those books every single day. So, ooh, the cringiest book you read this year. This one was kind of hard because I don't feel like a lot of the books I read are cringy. Like last year, yeah, there were some cringy books that I read. This year, I'm just like, it's cute. It's cute and it has romance. It's gonna be cringy a little bit, but like I don't remember it in my head as cringy, so I just... But for this one, I put 'Tis the Season for Revenge. And maybe it's because I just read it and like absolutely did not like it. But it's just like in my head, and it was definitely cringy, and I did not like the book, unfortunately. For multiple reasons. If you want to see why, go watch my Reading Christmas Books video. But I thought it was cringy and I didn't like the romance. So, there we go. Ooh, an unpopular book you loved. Okay, I don't know if I would say I loved this book, but I definitely liked it, and it was getting a lot of criticism, and it is The Brothers Hawthorne. Now, I was a little bit disappointed in this book simply because I wasn't sure what it was going to be. I knew it was going to be like a spin-off sort of with like the brothers. I thought it was going to have all of their POVs, and it only had 2 of the brothers. But once I got over that when reading the book, I actually liked it. I only gave it, I think, 3 or 4 stars, but I really liked Jameson's POV. I didn't care for Grayson's POV, honestly. I liked it. I liked the book, and a lot of people were like, it was not necessary. You don't need that book. Like, it could have been a novella, which I agree to an extent. I also liked it enough, and a lot of people were just like, no, 2 stars. I gave it like 3 or 4. So I counted it as like the one that was like unpopular that I actually liked. I still think you should read it if you haven't. You should give it a chance. It's nowhere near as good as the Inheritance games, but I think it's like setting up for something better. It is what it is. I liked it. Okay, so the highest and lowest rated books this year on my Goodreads, and do you agree? So for the highest rated book on Goodreads, it was Fourth Wing, and it was 4.63. And I do agree with this. That is one of my favorite books of the entire year. It probably is my favorite book of the entire year. I think that it is hyped up for a reason, and I loved it. And as someone who had never read fantasy before, I loved it. And I can see why people may not totally fall in love with it like I did, but a lot of people do, and I think it's great to get into fantasy. As someone who's never read fantasy, I loved it, so if that tells you anything, and I think about it every single day, so I definitely think it deserves the hype. And then the lowest book that I read this year on Goodreads, I was so surprised, and it is The Atlas 6. It only has a 3.63 rating. So honestly, I guess I don't agree with this because I think it should be higher. Some of the other books I think back and I'm like, how was that rated higher than the Atlas 6? But I can still see why some people wouldn't like the Atlas 6. Especially if you're like a romance girly and you read the Atlas 6, like you're going to be disappointed. And it is like full of pretentious, unlikable characters. But I actually liked Libby, and like I liked the characters in like a weird way. Like I could realize and like recognize what's bad about them, but I was entertained the whole time, and I thought like the magic was interesting. I can see why it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I still think it should be higher. Especially if I think of books that I didn't like, they're higher than the Atlas 6. I'm just like, oh, interesting. Like, I don't know. That's just interesting to me. Okay, fave quotes of the year. I did not prepare for this one because I was like, let's just flip through Better Than the Movies because, of course, I do know one. It's like, she isn't you. I'm gonna find it. Oh, found it. Okay, so basically they're just talking about another girl, and he just goes, she's not you. And she says, what? And he goes, she isn't you. I don't know why, but I love that. I just love it. And then there's another one. Oh, it's right here, literally the next page. I fell in love with teasing you in the 2nd grade when I first discovered that I could turn your cheeks pink with just a word. Then I fell in love with you. I don't know why, but I love that quote. Actually, I do know why. It's cute. I love it. There's so many good ones in this book. And then I'm trying to think of like some other good books. There's a bunch, other good quotes. There's a lot in Divine Rivals. Let me just go find it. I have pictures of them. Oh, this one's really good. She has to survive this, Roman thought. He didn't want to live in a world without her and her words. Oof, here's some good ones too. Here's one from Archer's voice. What are you doing here? I asked. You don't like thunderstorms, he answered. I tilted my head, confused. You walked a mile in the rain because I don't like thunderstorms? Speechless. There's another one from Archer's voice. It was a bouquet of Almond Joy candy bars held together in the middle with a little piece of string, tied neatly in a bow. He left that on her doorstep. That's not like a really cute quote, it's just like a cute action he did. Okay, that's enough for the quotes, but you get the point. Book with the most unique concept. Okay, this one I have to give it to None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, who I mentioned earlier that wrote Then She Was Gone. Because this book I was also pleasantly surprised by because it was so good and I listened to it as an audiobook, which I definitely recommend doing. It's so good as an audiobook. And the reason I picked it for this prompt is because the concept is about a woman who has a podcast and then she meets her birthday twin at a bar or a restaurant, and then her birthday twin convinces her to do a podcast episode about her. So you're basically like listening to them record a podcast, and then you also get the two girls' POV, and then also it's like a documentary, and this is all like you're looking in from the documentary of like clips from the podcast, and you also get the POV from the past of her life, and then you get like documentary clips where they're doing like interviews with people. It's really interesting and super unique, and I've never listened to a book like it, and I flew through it and absolutely loved it, so you should definitely listen to it. A book you read that you would reread. There's so many. Better Than the Movies, obviously. Fourth Wing, Iron Flame. Those are two that I'm like planning on rereading next year. And then a recent one is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I would like to listen to that again because now that I know the ending, I think it'd be interesting to reread it. Reading goal reflection and 2024 reading goal. Okay, so my reading goal this year was, this is embarrassing, but my Goodreads goal this year was 25 books. And I can happily say that I completed that. I'm at 42 books so far. And I feel like that's not a lot. I mean, especially compared to other people on YouTube and stuff like that have like hundreds of books that they read. But considering I was in college and working and all this stuff, like I was really busy, and I had a lot of book slumps this year, and books that just took me like a whole entire month to read. 42 isn't bad. It's more than I read last year. I will say that I'm going to be setting a little bit of a higher goal because basically I just set the goal of 25 because I knew I was going to reach it and I like wanted to reach my goal. But I think I'm going to try to go a little bit higher next year and really like push myself. So I think my goal is going to be 50 or 60. It's definitely going to be 50. I'm trying to decide if it's going to be like 55 or 60 and just see, now that I'm out of college, like what I can read. I might go 60. Might go a little crazy. I think I can do it. I'm really going to push myself. Okay, so after 2023, what are you prioritizing in 2024 reading-wise? This is such a good prompt and question, and I'm so glad it's included in this because I have a lot that I'm going to be trying to do. So the first thing is I'm going to be trying to branch out into different genres. I did that a little bit this year. Like 2022 me like read mostly romance. This year I read fantasy and I read dark academia, and I even did a little bit more of like thrillers and mysteries than I did the year before. So this next year I'm really going to try to read more fantasy because I've only read Iron Flame and Fourth Wing, and like Divine Rivals is fantasy, I think. I want to read some more memoirs, and I want to read nonfiction. I want to read like a bunch of different things. I want to try a bunch of different genres and see. And then another thing I'm going to be prioritizing in 2024 is more audiobooks. I really got into audiobooks at the end of 2023, but I want to try to continue this habit and listen to a lot more audiobooks in 2024. So far, I really love audiobooks, and they're just a great way to get more reading done and just like immerse yourself into a world, and I love it, and I love audiobooks, so that's a really big goal. And then my last one is I'm going to honestly prioritize DNFing. And I know you're probably like, but there's so many times where I was like so close to DNFing a book, and like after I finished it I was like, I wish I just would have DNF'd it. Like it didn't do anything for me at the end, and I was like, okay, I just wasted all that time. So honestly I'm gonna be like, okay, if I'm not feeling a book, I'm gonna put it down, and then if I want to come back to it I can. If not, oh well, it's a DNF. It's not the end of the world. And I started doing that towards the end of the year, but again, I just want to really prioritize that in the new year. That way I can read more books of like what I actually want. Or if it's taking me like a month to read, and be like, girl, let's just put it aside or really finish it quick. But yeah, that's everything I'm prioritizing in 2024. Okay, those are all the questions for this end of the year book tag. Again, thank you to Destiny for making this, and I hope you enjoyed this video and got to know a bit about my reading this year. And if you want to keep up with my journey of reading in 2024, then subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.